Hello, it's Pia from Tree Astrology. I thought I'd just do a quick video on Venus opposing Pluto. So Venus is currently in Leo and Pluto is currently in Aquarius, and they are about to hit a perfect opposition and I've got this written down somewhere, on the 18th. So that is actually tomorrow. I'm in Perth, Australia, so this is Perth Australian time. And when we're talking about transits in the sky, it often is a more of a transitive, it's a short-term effect. If you look at your natal chart, your birth chart, and you have a Pluto opposition with Venus natally, then obviously that is something that has a greater effect over your life over the long term. But we're still talking about this effect in terms of the archetypal energies interacting with each other. So I thought I'd just quickly go through it. So Venus is the planet of love, harmony, beauty, attraction, peace. And Pluto it's known as the Lord of the Underworld. It was known as the Lord of Hades and also Pluton. And it's Pluto is really about the breakdown and rebirth and regeneration. So I tend to think of it on one sense in terms of, for example, a volcano. When we think about anything that's repressed or building up, pressures underneath, deep in the ground. So, for example, the magma under the volcano, that's the underground molten rock that's building up pressure and pressure, pressure. And then eventually the pressure gets too much and it goes and it comes up through the volcano and it releases, and there's massive destruction. And then after that time, when things have cooled down, then you have that, a couple of weeks later, a few shoots popping up, and then you have regeneration. And what's happened is that all those nutrients from under the ground has come up and really sort of driven the regeneration and rebirth of new life. So Pluto is like that in an archetypal sense and an elemental sense, that it can be incredibly destructive and powerful. And in that sense, I says for us, quite frightening, and it can be very destructive. But after that, it clears the ground for something new to grow, a bit like that kind of phoenix moment. So that's one sense of it. And it's also about power as well. So Pluto traditionally was also the planet of all the riches under the world. So the minerals and the precious metals. And it was also known back then to be the riches of agriculture, a bit like Taurus, the riches of the earth. So it's about purging as well, a bit like the volcano. So purging and purification. It's related to that evolutionary process, and also because of that powerfulness, especially as we're going to talk about when it's opposing Venus, there can be that obsessive, compulsive, jealous, controlling aspects to love or relationships as well. So when we're talking about an opposition, they are on the opposite sides of the wheel. And I will just let me share this with you so you can have a look at it. I'll just pull this up. I hope I'm sharing the right one. Right. Okay. So I think I'm sharing the right one. Yeah. Okay. So you can see Venus here is at Leo at 5 degrees 14. So this is, I'm in Perth, Australia. So this is at 18th of June. That's tomorrow for me. If you're somewhere in Canada or US, I think you're about 12 hours behind, almost exactly at the moment. So here's Venus in Leo at 5 degrees 14. She's opposite Pluto here at 5 degrees 7. Now, Venus moves quite quickly in comparison to Pluto. So Pluto's in here. He's going to be in Aquarius he's already been here for about 1.5, almost 2 years. He's in there for about 20 years. And Venus is going to be opposing Pluto probably only for about 4 or 5 days. So she will move out of range about the 20th. So you're probably already feeling it now. It'll hit its peak on the 18th. and then move off on the 20th. So yeah, so you'll see if I let me put this, let me see days. So you'll see as I move this, by the 20th, she's already, or 21st, she's out of range, or at least 3 degrees. So you might even be feeling it on the 21st. So let me just give you some keywords for this opposition. So oppositions are basically like a push and pull. Think of like, a tug of war with a piece of string. It's direct opposition or tension and confrontation. It can be. So when we have these two opposite for a moment in time, we'll get an energy of sometimes that sense of forbidden love. It can be being attracted to someone who's not necessarily good for you. It can be sexuality that's quite, what's the word, Dionysian? That's my favorite word at the moment. Really libidinal, perhaps a little bit coarse, a little bit seedy. It can be. It can be a relationship that's compulsive. If you get a relationship that starts during this transition, it can be relationships that are perhaps, very compulsive, powerful, relationships that can kind of end quite dramatically and be quite transformative, have a lot of psychological depth. And this, having those two planets together can be about power plays, manipulation, jealousy, those kind of shadow desires that you might not even be aware of. The kind of desires sometimes that you're giving off signals that you're not even aware of. That you think, why do my relationships always end up in a certain way, in a certain dynamic? And it can be because you don't even know it, but you're giving off signals or sort of some sort of communication that leads to that kind of interaction. So that could be it as well. It can be a time when hidden grudges. So a little bit like, I was talking about the volcano. If you've got sort of molten lava and you've got this burning, could be a grudge, it could be a desire, it could just be anything that you're not 100% comfortable with, and you're kind of pushing it down, going, I can't deal with this, it's a bit too full on. Pluto transits are like, builds and they go, poo. So in that sense, when you have a Pluto hard aspect, so we're talking about square or a opposition, especially if you have it in your natal chart, this is a time to try and be open and honest and really address things head on. So if you've got like a grudge or something's annoying you about something, or your partner is like something that's been unaddressed and you're not airing it, this is the time to do it, because really with Pluto, it can be one of those things where before you know it, there's a big scene, something dramatic, you literally Vesuvius, which can be pretty full on sometimes as well for you and for the other person as well. And they might react as well. And also, a little bit like if you're the kind of person that, which, many people do, and I can do that myself, but if you are denying something that's a little bit powerful or not what you don't consider particularly palatable, or something that's just a little bit too much, if you deny it, especially your own anger or assertion or power, then you can often attract partners who represent the power that you want or don't have or are missing or aren't able to express. And then sometimes you may attract partners that try and exert that power over you. So yeah, that's just something to be aware of. And it can be a desire for luxury objects too, because Venus represents money and luxury. It could be about toxic habits as well, overindulgence in things that are not very good for you. On a larger scale, it can represent sort of corporate greed. It could be about hidden debts, financial stress versus freedom. I actually read this somewhere. Somebody wrote, and I've heard other people say it, there's a fine line between pleasure and pain, a bit like that Divinal song. You might have heard it. So that's another sort of key word for Pluto and Venus in opposition. So another thing too, I would say a little bit of advice during this time is to try and make sure that you're moving that Plutonian energy. Like I said, if you feel that there's any resentment or anything that you're trying to suppress that's bothering you, try and get out in front of it and express it, even though that may be uncomfortable. If you're the kind of person that doesn't like talking about things that can be a little bit uncomfortable, slightly confrontational, try and get it out there. It's better to do that than have it sort of explode. And try and step back, try and be aware of your own feelings and thoughts. Try and, whether that's Pilates or meditation, walks out in nature, try and be mindful about what's happening. Exercise is fantastic to get that kind of Plutonians out, anything that's really strong emotions. And try and step back and not to control as a way to deal with the situation. So creativity, exercise, anything that gets you go, like research, journaling, focusing on something else is really the way to go. So again, this is a transiting aspect between two planets. I would say, everything that I've talked about really applies if you look at your own natal chart and you notice that you have hard aspects between Venus and Pluto. So that could be Venus square Pluto when they're at 90 degrees to each other, or if you have, so just to point it out, sorry, I don't know if I pointed out to you. So here's Pluto, the guy going like this. There's a couple of other ones that look like a P with an L as well. Pluto, why do I say it's an opposition? Well, we've got the circle and halfway through, so you probably remember from your geometry classes, 360 degrees is the circle, half of it is 180 degrees, quarter of it is 90 degrees. So 180 degrees right through the middle, that's an opposition. If it's like a square in the middle, right angle, that is a square. So if you've got that in your chart, you know that you have, we call it a hard aspect in astrology because it's alignment of friction. So an opposition here is, like I said earlier at the beginning, it's a push-pull. The other thing to look out for is when we're talking about the outer planets, so we're talking about Pluto, we're talking about Neptune, we're talking about Uranus, because they're the modern outer planets, which we consider them generational planets. If one of those planets, so there's Neptune and there is Uranus, if they are, when I say hitting one of your personal planets, so if they are opposing one of your personal planets, if they are squaring one of your personal planets, especially in hard aspects, then that is when you're really, really going to feel it in your life. And because they are slow moving, these are often long periods, many months, sometimes over a year as well. So again, this is a transiting aspect between two transiting planets. If you'd like to explore, if you're going through some really tough times in your life, more than likely, then you've got one of the outer planets aspecting one of your personal planets or one of the nodes. If you'd like to explore that, contact me through my website, lifetreeastrology.com. Organize a reading together. We can go through and just have a look at your chart. And that's it. I was planning to do it like a YouTube short, and I just can't help myself. I just talk much longer. Anyway, hope you're all well. And it's cold here in Perth. Funny thing is, in Perth, Australia, you're probably going to laugh if you're in a cold country like Europe, like Sweden or Canada or northern places or really southern places. But here in Australia, our houses are not built for cold weather. So there's lots of gaps and holes everywhere. So when it's like 5 or 8 or 10 degrees, it's really cold in our houses. So so I'm all rugged up. Anywho, I hope you have a wonderful evening, a wonderful morning, and I'll talk to you soon. And if you want to, it'd be great, share how, if you had any sort of full on or powerful things happen in your life during this transit. If you feel like it, please share and let us know what happened. Okay. Take care, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.